All right, for today, I want to give you one that you should be able to put in, no big deal, on your calculator. And I'm going to give you the situation, and you put it into your calculator. We'll adjust it so that it's even more real world. So here's your scenario. You have $5,000, and you're getting 4% interest on that because you invested it in a CD, and you're going to keep it there for 10 years. $5,000 at 4% for 10 years. All right, I'm going to pause for a second while you use what you already know to put that into your calculator. And then we'll adjust it and start talking about how in the real world there's actually things that happen monthly that affects your answer. Pause while you put that in. For those at home that are doing this for the first time, you need to be in sequence mode to do what we're about to do today. So I'm in sequence mode now. And on a real world problem, we always start with n min is 0. And now I'm going to put in, pausing. Okay, and now I'm going to put in the $5,000 and we go down to that row and get that over with. Just move this out of the way here. 5,000. The first thing we put in on the written equation is the last thing that goes in the calculator. And then I'm going to put 1 plus, because when you're in the bank, you're not losing money, you're gaining money, plus, and I'm doing 4%. I hope you know that's 0.04. And then I'm going to delete out these other numbers I don't need. And there we go. And the parentheses. Cool. And how do I do 10 years from now? I go to my table settings and make sure that I'm starting at row 1 and changing it by ones. Then I'm going to go to my table and find the 10th row, and there it is. But wait a minute. I had only 5,000. How come I have $7,401.22? What happened? I got what? Interest. That's called interest, or investment income. My 5,000 grew. Okay. Now, what would we do to make this more real world if it was monthly? So let me show you where that goes. If we go back in here, and I taught you about the insert key. It's right above the delete key. Get to this spot, and I'll show you where we're going to insert something. 0.04, right here, we're going to insert divided by 12. Now, it's at the very end, so it would have been fine to just write right over it. And then outside of the parentheses, you're going to put in how much you're going to add to it every month. Do you get in the real world? It's not often that people just put some money in and they never touch their bank account again. It's more likely you're going to add some from time to time, right? Because you're making money, you get a monthly salary, and so you're going to put some in. All right, so this is where we're going to put plus 50. We'll add $50 a month to our 5,000. So that /12 means that it was being done monthly now. Does that mean you get 4% every month? Nope. That means you get 4% total, but you recalculate it every month. The more often you recalculate your interest, you do get slightly more, because the compounding can start making your interest money earn interest. So anyway, we're going to make it 12 for monthly. That's what's usually going to happen. Do you get that sometimes here, where this says divide by 12? We're going to have, it's not going to be monthly. It's going to be like 4 times a year. Anybody know the name for something that happens 4 times a year? Yes? Quarterly. Very good. Any of you that are involved in small businesses with your mom or dad, if they have a small business or they own their own business, they pay their quarterlies, it's called. And that's where you're paying your taxes every quarter. So you don't pay taxes once a month. You pay your taxes once a quarter. There's 4 quarters in the year, so you divide by 4 then. Okay. All right, so let's make sure you see how this is written out. should there be more in there 10 years from now? There should be, because we're adding a little bit every month. And we're compounding it 12 times a year. But see, the problem is people go look at U sub 10 and they think that they're at 10 years from now. But what are you really if you're at U sub 10? 10 what? Months from now. Okay, so now if we want to really compare apples and apples, we got to go 10 years from now, which would be 12 months times 10 is 120 months. Do you think I want you to hit down arrow 120 times? That'd be dumb. I'd be sad that you weren't willing to like figure out the tech way to do that. So would you please go to your table settings and change it so you can see the 120th month just right off the bat. Start my table at 120. Now I'm going to go to table. And it takes longer to run because it's calculating every value based on the value before it, and then adding 50 and then multiplying by 1.05 divided by 12. It has to do that a bajillion times. So it takes a while. So be patient. If you ever realize, though, that you screwed something up and it's calculating the wrong thing, and you want to stop it from working, you just hit the on button, and it does what's called break. And in the middle of it processing, it'll just stop what it's doing and get out of it. So if your calculator is just running like forever, just hit the on button. It stops it from running forever. All right. Do you get that this person, they had $5,000, now they have $14,816? Does it make sense? They have a lot more money? Well, yeah, they added some every month. All right. Now I'm going to give you a new scenario. You see if you can change it properly in your calculator. Much bigger numbers. Let's say that your great Aunt Tilly was loaded. And when she passes away, she leaves some to all the grandchildren and all the little nephews and nieces. Okay? So she gives you $10,000 in inheritance money. And you, unlike all your other siblings, who just were like, whoo, go to the store and it's gone in one day. Could you spend 10 grand? I could spend 10 grand in a day. If you don't know how to do that, you're just not shopping at the right store. Okay, it's easy to spend 10 grand in a day if you want to. Okay, but I'm not saying that's the smart thing to do. Okay, so anyway, a lot of people, if they got 10 grand, they'd be like, it'd be gone in a week, easy. And there's other people who'd be like, I'm going to save that because I'm going to make it grow and then I'll get more later. All right, so now the new scenario is $10,000. You put it in the stock market, and let's say that you get on average 8%, and you're extra smart, you're going to add $100 a month to that because you want it to grow. 6 years from now, which is not U sub 6, that would be 6 months from now. 6 years from now, you go off to college, and by then you've actually run out of all the other money, and you got to start using it for college. I'll give you my scenario again. You have $10,000 to invest towards your college. You're getting 8% in the stock market, and we want to look 6 years out. How much would you have? I'm going to pause for a second and you give that a try. There's usually a couple kids who don't know what 6 years is in months. Right? I totally get that. So 6 times 12, 72. So you're looking for U sub 72. So I would go into my table settings and change that and just start with 72. Pausing for a second while you fix up your equations. Okay, I think I have it in there right. So I'm going to hit table. And what I'm having the calculator do is put 10,000 here and 8% here. And instead of adding 50, we're adding 100 every month. And now I don't want U sub 10. We wanted 6 years later, which is 6 times 12 is u sub 72, would be 6 years later. And mine says, you know, it's hard to read that, so I'm going to arrow onto it. Then you can even get the decimals. See the difference? The one in the chart is rounded, and this one's the decimal answer. So if they said to the nearest penny, you'd have to do this. All right, so that is 25,000. Wow, that added up. I only had 10 in there. Now I got 25. That's a pretty good deal. Why did it grow so much? Because you got 8% and you were adding $100 a month, which is like $1,000 a year. Think about that. If you added $1,000 a year for 6 years, you added 6,000 to it. So all by yourself, you would have been at like 16. But then it grew because of the stock market, and you're at 25 grand. Now, I hate to say it, 25 grand isn't even going to be enough to pay for 1 year of tuition, room, and board at college. But it's better than not having any money in there. Okay. All right. How many of you got that 25,000-ish number? Okay, good. Now, new scenario. It's a loan. Do you get there will be a lot of kids that need to take out a loan for some money to go to college? It's true. The average, by the time you're done, the average kid nowadays has got 35,000 in loans. I hope you don't have any in loan. And I hope you can avoid it 100%. I saw a nightmare scenario the other day. Two people were married and they had $900,000 in loans. Almost $1 million in loans. Both of them were lawyers. You might think, oh, well, they'll make a lot of money. Even when you are a lawyer, it's going to be really hard to pay back $1 million. It wasn't 900,000, but in loans. And then, this was the news story said that one of the two people did not pass the bar exam and therefore is not going to be a lawyer. So they got all the debt. Do you get to just not pay the debt because you didn't pass the exam? No. You just don't make the big money because you can't be the lawyer now. So that's like going to doctor school and you get really close to being done and then you get hurt so bad that you can't be a doctor. You still got all the loans, but now you can't pay them back. My point, loans are very dangerous because you can't guarantee that you might become that thing, but to guarantee you'll have those loans. Those won't go away. You can't even get out of the loans with bankruptcy. Even if you declare bankruptcy, your college loans do not go away. All right, so the ones to the government at least. Okay, so back to be careful on college loans. So this one I changed to a loan by changing this to a minus. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. You put a minus right there. And then it's how much you want to pay towards your loan. Let's say that we want to have it pay off. So you have a $10,000 loan. Let's pay $200 a month. Notice the only thing that changed was this was a negative. Otherwise, we set up the problem the same way. Now, is 8% realistic on a college loan? Well, it depends on what kind of loan it is. Some loans are cheaper than that, but other private loans, like a loan from Wells Fargo or just like a loan from a normal bank, could be that high. I'm going to have you go change that to 4% because that's more realistic. College loans aren't usually 8% unless you're one of those people who's borrowing more than you should be, and then they charge you even more interest. It's kind of a vicious cycle. You're borrowing more, and they're like, I'm not sure they're going to be able to pay me back, so I'm going to charge them more interest. So anyway, don't borrow too much. So I'm going to go here. There are ways to not have to borrow so much. You can go to cheaper colleges. And I know it's not as attractive as some of your friends that might be going to the super expensive private school to say, I'm going to go to the U of M and I'm going to stay at home. Maybe not quite as cool sounding as I'm going to Dartmouth and it's $85,000 a year. But if you stay at home, go to the U of M, it's not that, it doesn't have to be that expensive. Okay, so I'm going to move over to, I said let's change it to 4%. So I'm going to make that a 4. And then I said this is a loan. So don't I want it to shrink That's why this is negative, because you want it to shrink every month. You don't want your loan to get bigger every month. You want it to shrink every month. So it's a $10,000 loan and it's shrinking. Now let's go to the table settings and go back to a table start of 1. And look at what your table starts at 1. It should, you borrowed about, okay, yeah, there it is. I just couldn't read it. You have about 10,000. What? Why is it more than 10,000 right away? Didn't I borrow 10,000? Well, a U sub 0 is 10,000. That's after 1 month. And I just couldn't read it. I apologize. It is a little lower than 10,000. But I paid 200. How come it's 9833? If I paid off 200, shouldn't it be 9,800? Because of interest. Okay, so when is this thing paid off? Somebody could arrow down forever until they finally find where it pays off. But you could also do the table settings thing and say, I suspect it's going to take like, I don't know, 25 at least. So you change your table to be 25 and then you look again and you see, is it paid off yet? How will you know it's paid off? It never actually hits 0 exactly. All right, so dang, that wasn't it. Somebody's there by now.
Yeah, I got it 55.
55, holy cow. You telling me it's going to take 55 months to pay back a $10,000 loan? Yep. It's a long time. 55 months? You'll be old. It's true. All right, now let's look at where it turns negative. The key here is at 54 months, you still owed them a little bit of money. But then all of a sudden with that last payment, you paid 200 where you only owed 157. What do you think that negative 42 is? They give you money back. You paid them too much. Think of it this way. You only owed them 157, but you paid them 200. So now they owe you money back. All right. So how many payments did it take? 55 payments. So how much total did you spend? 55 payments times $200, but now they owe you money back. You subtract the negative number, negative 42.43. You subtract $42.43. That'll give you your grand total. So I'm going to do on my calculator 55 times payments of $200 each, 55 times 200. That's 11,000. So I paid 11,000, but now they owe me back $42, negative $42.43. Final answer is 10957.57. So here's a good question. How much total did you pay for that $10,000 loan? Almost $11,000. Well, why? I thought you just had to pay back $10,000 because of interest. So then, follow-up question, how much interest did you pay? These are all questions you'd have to answer on the homework. How much interest did you pay? Well, I just subtract the $10,000, and it was $957.57. The original negative, or no, not negative really. The bank earned $957.57, and that's what you paid in interest. All right. Now, key elements. Look at your calculator again. Hit the Y equals button again. You with me? Some of you haven't touched the calculator yet. The interest always goes on top of the 12. So right there. And I did 4% interest because we were doing a school loan and those are pretty low interest rates. And the payments or deposits go right here. If this is a negative where I have the blinking cursor, then it's a loan and you're trying to make it shrink every month. And if it's a positive, you're trying to make it grow every month. And then after that, you put your payment. This thing on the bottom is called your principal. It's how much you started with. All right, so I'm going to give you one last scenario. If you can put this all in and tell me how much total you paid for your snowmobile, then compare it with the kid next to you and see if you get the same answer. All right, so here's the snowmobile problem. You borrow $20,000 to buy a snowmobile. You are pretty young, and so you don't get a great interest rate when you go to the bank. They want 9% interest monthly, compounding. 9% interest, $20,000 loan, and we're going to make $400 a month payments. Actually, I don't want this to take so long. We're going to make $600 a month payments. That's pretty big payments for a snowmobile, but at least it'll pay off faster that way. Okay, so $20,000 snowmobile, 9%. What did I settle on for payments? 600? I think. 600, thank you. Find where it gets paid off. You sub what? At you sub something, you still owed them a little bit of money, and then the one after that, it was negative, and they owe you money back. Can anybody tell me you sub what? Thank you. Everybody compare your U sub 39 with the kid next to you. And if your U sub 39 is not there, get some help on how to put that in. Raise your hand. I'll come and help you, or ask the kid next to you. Okay, here's how to properly put it in. It's a $20,000 loan, so I put the $20,000 there. That's called the principal. Up here, 9% interest because you're young and they get to charge you more interest. They can do it based on a lot of things. The main one is your credit rating. If you've been good about paying money back every time you've borrowed it, the banks keep track of that in your credit score, and they can charge you less or more based on how good your credit is. All right, making $600, so minus 600. Why do I want a minus? Because I want it to go down. My loan amount should go down every month. Then somebody gave me the tip that it was going to be 39, so I'm going to go to U sub 39, and I'm going to hit table. It crunches for a while. I know that my payments were $600, and if this person was right about the 39, it's 600 times 39, but it's not quite done. Why? Because, double checking, yep, that one still owed money, and here it's done, and I paid 39 payments, but the last one was more than I needed to pay, so they owe me money back. So I do 600 times 39, just pausing for a sec. Okay, I got 23,400 is the total that I paid, but then I look and see how much they owe me back. They owe me back 298.7. I'm going to get that to the penny by arrowing over here. 298.68. So I'm going to subtract 298.68. Okay, so the grand total that you paid was this. But I thought you only borrowed $20,000. Why do you think it's more than that? Interest. So when they ask you, how much interest did you pay? You'll be like, well, I thought I borrowed 20, actually paid 23, $3,100 in interest. You see why banks want to give you the loan? Because they didn't do anything except give you the money, and they made $3,000 bucks. It's a pretty good deal. And what if you hadn't paid them back? They keep the title of your snowmobile until you've paid them back every penny. So if you decide to quit paying near the end, or even at the beginning, they have the title, they own it. So that means they can come to your house and take it because they own it. They ever heard of the repo man? They repossess things. So if you don't make your payments on something, they can come and take away your car because it's not your car or your snowmobile until You've paid off every bit of that loan. So, all right. So that covers everything you have to know. So now we're going to go to the worksheet that's posted for today. I'm going to cut a whole bunch of problems out of it because I want to keep it realistic. The very first one, 1A, is a little too easy, so we won't even do that. We're going to start on 1B. So find the worksheet posted under today's date, which is February 6th, and find part B. Okay, so here's the worksheet. And I said you could skip 1A. There's a bunch of other ones you can skip, but let's just do them one at a time here. As with all assignments, unless it's on a Friday, which it's not, they're due at midnight tonight. So this is due by midnight tonight. We're going to finish a lot of it in class right now, but try to get it done by midnight tonight. On Fridays, they're due on midnight Sunday. But okay, let's start with B here. The frequency of compounding. This one was not monthly. This one was quarterly. If you wrote quarterly, I would have accepted, but 4 is how often it compounded. The interest rate, 6.25%. Do you get how I used a percent, not a decimal? Next, the principal, loan or investment. That little symbol tells us. Since it says minus, what do you think, loan or investment? Loan, because you want it to drop every month until it's gone. All right, so loan. And that principal was how much you borrowed. You borrowed $130,000. That's a lot of dough. Must be buying a really expensive car or maybe a house. Or maybe you borrowed a lot for college. That would be a scary number. All right, and then deposit or payment, that's this. And since it's a loan payment. There's no such thing as a loan deposit. All right, so the payment is 1055. There we go. Now, I helped you with that one. You should do part C by yourself to make sure you know what's going on. And then I double-checked through this, and I'm going to be able to skip a bunch, but problem 2, 3, and 4 kind of all go together. 5 is the summary answer to that question. So by the time you get to number 5, you've already done all the work. So you may skip all the rest of the worksheet. If you want to do more for practice, you can. But you can skip the whole rest of the worksheet all the way to the end, all of those. Just get this first one all the way through number 5 done, and then start skipping at number 6. Okay, got to admit, that cuts out a lot. Your job, actually do the part I assigned. It really, really, really helps more if you do a little bit each night than if I assign the whole thing, but then you don't actually do it. All right. If that felt like we went kind of fast, we did, because that was 2 days of lesson at once. Because we had somehow gotten behind a little bit because we did the top 20 and other classes didn't. But that's going to pay off in the end. I needed to go a little fast today. So if today felt like, oh my gosh, I hope it's not going to be that fast. It's not normally that fast. That was 2 days worth of material. Okay? So tomorrow will be much easier than today was. Now we're all caught up. And we're ahead of some classes. All right. And that's all I have for you for today. If you want to do extra problems, you absolutely can. Just because I crossed them off doesn't mean you can't do them. But I want it to be more individual. Like when I hand you your test back and you go, crap, I got a C on that, I better do a few more to practice because I haven't been doing that well. That would be a mature way to handle that.